Welcome back to another episode of the Casey Campbell Podcast. Casey Campbell with you, of course. We are pleased to be joined by Alex Gary. Alex, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to be here.
So
Be
just
on here.
just kind of talk about what you do and kind of introduce yourself a little bit.
Well, again, I'm Alex. I'm a sophomore right now at the University of Maryland, at the Philip Merrill School of Journalism, studying primarily broadcast journalism. And a member of an organization called Terrapin Sports Central, where we pretty much go cover everything Maryland sports. We go to every game, shoot highlights, interview people, do pretty much everything at a game, shoot stand-ups, and just so that we can push content out. And then we also have studio shows where we recap everything Maryland sports. And then for Terrapin Sports Central, I myself am an associate producer for it.
Okay.
Mhm.
So before we get into what you've done, the kind of want to go to how this all got started.
hmm Well, it really traces all back to my mom. She worked in PR her whole life, so she was around a lot of athletes and like a lot of that whole like athlete broadcasting world. She actually worked in a place called One World Sports, and I came with her one day to take your child to work day, and I just fell in love with the environment. I was seeing what everyone was doing, and I said from that moment there, I'm gonna do something related to this. I didn't know what capacity it was. I knew, but I knew I was going to do something in the realm of journalism. And ever since then, I picked a college based. I was going through the whole college process. Ended up in Maryland because it was the best fit. And ever since then, I've just been working towards that goal of as somewhere ending up in a career in broadcast sports journalism.
So kind of talk about just what you've been able to do because
Mhm.
you've done a lot in only 2 years.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I just want to say I'm blessed to be at Maryland because a lot of other schools don't have a lot of opportunities up front. Like, I think I came to school my freshman year on, let's say, August 26th, something around that date. And by April, or not by April, sorry, by September, like mid-September, I was already covering game. I was already shadowing games, and by October, I was doing covering my own games by myself. So I was able to get involved right away from the start, and it was such a great opportunity because, again, I said a lot of other schools you have to wait. There's a whole waiting process, and you don't get to have a lot of experience early. And since that, I've been able to cover so many games, get so much experience, like, and have an unbelievable time doing it. Like to pull up an example, I was covering the Maryland Purdue game where they ended up storming the court. And if you asked me coming in as a freshman, I would be able to cover a game of that magnitude sophomore, like a year and a half in, I would have not believed I would have been able to do that. But thanks to the experience that I had and the opportunities that I had, I was ready for that moment.
Yeah. Just for context, what sport was that again?
Oh, sorry, that was the Maryland Purdue basketball game.
Okay.
hmm
Um, so just kind of talk about just some of what is some of the sports that you've been able to cover, like whether it's write about or broadcast on or
hmm
just and then also what is your favorite and what's the most challenging?
Um, well, one of the things that I love is that I have not been secluded to one sport. I've covered a lot of sports. I've went from volleyball to baseball to um women's basketball to lacrosse to men's lacrosse to football to men's soccer to women's soccer. I've covered a lot of sports, which I just think is a great opportunity because I I get to learn so much. First off, like I didn't know a lot of the rules of some of the sports. Like volleyball, I wasn't the most educated, but I got to learn about some of these sports, and I just love the fact that I get to cover an array of sports. In terms of my favorite, I would say probably it would have to be basketball, just because of the environment. Xfinity Center is always electric, and I covered men's basketball this past winter, and the environment at Xfinity was great. And it's great seeing like all the players and a lot of big time media sometimes came to cover the game. So it was great thinking to myself that I'm sitting beside people who are who have been doing this for years, and this is are like professional people, and I'm a student, and I'm being able to do pretty much the same thing. So it was great feeling. And then
Yeah.
in terms of the hardest sport to cover, I would have to say it's probably baseball, just because shooting baseball games is not easy with the camera, because you gotta get so much area in the camera and cover the ball whenever it moves, and
Follow the
not always
ball.
it's not always the easiest thing to do, because and again with baseball, if you're creating like a highlight package, and some baseball games don't have a lot of highlights, it's a lot of just going back and forth. So it's if you miss that one key moment, it's a not a good thing. So that does have its challenges, really.
Yeah. So what's it like what's it like shooting a game? Because that's gotta be entertaining because it's like, camera because they always see like TV cameras and all that stuff. It's like, oh, let's get
Mhm.
here, there, and all that. And what's that like?
Um, it's not the easiest, to be honest, but it's one of those things where when you do it time and time again, you get a lot better. It's a lot of just following the ball, following the players, trying your best to get every moment, and eventually you get the hang of it, and eventually when you do it for a while, your arm starts to fall off. So that's not the easiest as well, but it's a lot of a learning curve, but it does get a lot easier when you can just try and track the ball for as much as you can, and try and be a little less shaky with your movements.
So who's been like best but what's been like most best game that you've shot or best interview that you've had or something like that?
I would have to say the best game again has to be the Maryland Purdue game, just because the Xfinity Center was unbelievable that day. All of College Park was at that game. It was a sold out crowd. Everyone was there to see Zach Edey. Everyone wanted to see, because Maryland didn't lose at home the entire season, and everyone was trying to see, could this be a game where people storm the court. And at the game, I think it was like midway through the second half, Maryland started pulling ahead, and all the people that I was sitting next to, we all realized there could be a court storming. So, like 30 seconds left in the game, where Maryland's obviously going to win. The students are getting ready to storm the court, and I'm just running with a camera like all the way up here, just trying to like that I don't drop the camera. But even though it was like so stressful and I was getting pushed around, it was an unbelievable experience. I had so much fun covering that game, and then being able to then produce it the next or create a highlight package, a stand up for it was great, because I kept on reliving that moment, reliving everyone feeling so much joy. So it was just a great moment that I had.
For sure. And what are your goals for heading into this next year in Maryland?
I think pretty similar goals. I think coming in, coming into the University of Maryland, I had two goals before my midway point, where I wanted to learn everything. I wanted to learn how to do everything. I wanted to learn how to edit. I wanted to learn how to shoot games. I wanted to learn how to be better on camera. And I feel like in these 2 years, I've kind of achieved that. I've achieved the learning process. So my thought process now for the next 2 years is I have the foundation now. I know how to do everything, but I want to get really good at it, because it's one thing to know it and one thing to master it. And I want to be able to master some of these skills. I want to be able to edit in Premiere way quicker than I have originally. I want to be able to shoot. I want to be able to do live shots where I can just think of information on the fly and just provide it live. I want to be able to um, write better when in terms of writing for a package. So I learned all this stuff, but in the next coming years, I want to get better at it, because it's those skills that are going to help me eventually get a job after I graduate. So I want to be proficient in all these skills.
All right. Well, Alex, thank you so much for coming on and talking with us, and best
Yeah,
of luck in your career. We'll definitely have you on again sometime.
yeah. Thank you so much for having me. This was great.